Yeah, I can do that. 1, 2, 3. All right, guys, all for being here. Appreciate you. If you're watching streaming, we have exactly 10 people in the room. And so we got some folks from the town of Franklin, town of Highlands, our superintendent of schools, Chris Baldwin, 2 of our county commissioners, Jim Tate and Carl Gillespie, and County Manager Derek Rowland, and Sheriff Robbie Holland. Did I miss anybody? And town of Highlands, Josh Ward. Thank you guys for coming. The genesis of this was last Wednesday. I was invited over to Andrews to do a live video with the mayor of Andrews. So I contacted some folks from Murphy, told them I was coming, and it was kind of time to maybe get together for some little updates or whatever. So I had a little get together in Murphy, and then came back and did one in Hayesville and one in Robbinsville for Graham County. So I had asked Derek last week one day to put together something for today. I've been in the legislature all week and just got home late last night. Carl, you'll experience that before long. Yeah. So I thought this might be a good, I really have no agenda other than I just want to give you some information. I want to hear from you, thoughts, feedback on what's been going on and the state's response and all that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd go over, this is really, really new information on the video screen. You see, this was a briefing. We have a briefing generally once a week from DHHS, Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Mandy Cohen, and the governor's usually on that call, and they go over everything with us. It takes about an hour, and that was today. So this information is about 2 hours old. So I'm going to give you guys just a brief run through. I know some of this is kind of small, but if you look, basically the darker color, the worse the infections are. So guess what? East and West is doing better than the center part of the state. But I think we all get that. I've told them in Raleigh, we've been social distancing for generations up here. Nothing new. I mean, we don't live 10 feet from each other. And so that's the state breakdown. You can see where the hot spots are. Charlotte, Raleigh, Greensboro, and really not even Asheville. They've kind of been spared that. Here is the trends of COVID-like syndromic cases, and you can see that general trend is going down. Can y'all see that? All right, so next slide. This is laboratory confirmed cases, and you look at that and it's a little troublesome when you first look at it, but I'll show you something in a minute. The number of tests have gone up exponentially, so obviously you're going to have more infections show up because we're doing more testing, and that's the goal, is to do as much testing as possible. Here is positive tests, people that come back positive with it, and you see that trend line. That's one reason we went to phase 2, or going to phase 2 today, is because of indicators like that. There's your positive tests on a downward slope. Hospitalizations, even though it's been up, down, if you look at the yellow line, it's been statistically flat, which you remember all the stuff we've been flatten the curve, flatten the curve, flatten the curve. Well, that's what that's talking about. What you don't want is to see that, a big spike, and we have not. So that's been going up and down a little bit, essentially flat for a number of days now. Testing, you see the testing was obviously a little jump there at the very beginning. Then it went down because there weren't enough test kits, and they started getting them, and the testing is going really well, going through the roof actually. Here's the stay-at-home order that's begun today, phase 2. Open healthcare, essential businesses, retail businesses, child care, overnight camps, parks and beaches. Still closed is bars, nightclubs, playgrounds, gyms, fitness studios, indoor entertainment. Anybody got a question about that? I think it appeared to me, at least in Franklin, that a lot of the restaurants were were open or planning to open. It looks like they're making preparation for that. 50% capacity for restaurants. You can go get your hair cut, Carl. They're going to be 50% on that. Gathering, still 10 indoors or 25 outdoors. Testing guidance is just, the recommendation is for people to be tested if you have symptoms or if you have been around somebody and known to have been exposed. And there's a lot of test kits. We're lucky in North Carolina. LabCorp makes a lot of those, and they're located in Burlington, North Carolina, so we've got a good supply of those. Derek, do you know the health department, have they got a good supply of those?
Yes, it's my understanding that they do them as they request.
Yep. Oh, so that's through the health departments in each county. So, but if you guys find you need more, let me know. We can make some calls and make sure you got plenty of those, because if we wind up with a spike in this stuff, testing is going to be very important to do, and you want to have those kits on hand. There's just some guidance for testing those at higher risk. Same thing for long-term care facilities. We've got plenty of those PPE packs that'll go to more than 3,000 state licensed long-term care facilities. This is a this is a new data dashboard that's kind of showing what we have on hand, and you can see face shields. We got 391 days worth of those. Gloves, 432 days. The things that we're missing is gowns, but I understand there's some manufacturers that have kicked in with that in the past few days. Respirators, we have 32 days worth of those. That's 3,800, over 3,800. And masks, we got 269 days. So the recommendation is still the 3 W's: wear, wait, wash, and hopefully we'll be through this soon. Any comments, questions? I want this to be very informal. Carl?
I have two.
Oh.
One, almost everybody in here is in the midst of working on budgets, one capacity or another. And while we're certainly not asking for the state to send us a check, but if you want to, that will be.
Right, you accept it.
First question is, what are they telling you in regards to revenue shortfall?
Okay.
Sales tax and other.
Okay.
Second question I've been asking, in regards to schools opening for various things like AD schedule, kids wearing masks, and all kinds of different things coming from the state. Speak on that.
Okay, so question was, for those of you who couldn't hear, that was Commissioner Gillespie. Question was about budget shortfalls. We're all going to have them. The town of Franklin's going to have it. Town of Highlands is going to have it. And the reason we have budget shortfalls is because of the ad valorem tax and sales tax is going to be hurt. Sales tax more than ad valorem. So that's a great question. We have received over $4 billion with a B, $4 billion in state or in federal money, and that's been given to the states, and we've been allowed to distribute that. They're telling us now that we can't use that for budget shortfalls. I've got a couple of real good friends in Congress, Dr. Greg Murphy, congressman from down east, and then Dan Bishop, who's down in the Charlotte area. And in talking with them, they think there will be some relaxing of those. So if that happens, then we can hopefully get another round of money to the counties and cities. And while we're there, let me just talk about that. We were able to, and I was hoping Senator Davis would come by. He's working today, but he was instrumental in getting this too. We got, for Macon County, we got $833,000 for Macon County. Now, and that's to be shared with the municipalities, and that was the intent. And Derek can address that, but
Yes, we have, like I say, received notification, we'll be receiving the $833,000, and we're currently, as Carl mentioned, everybody's in the midst of budget, so as we have presented the budget now, can direct focus to it, we have to have it submitted, of course, by June 1st. So I actually reached out to both Summer and Josh at each of our municipalities yesterday, so we can begin discussions to be able to equitably distribute that funding to each of our municipalities who, like us, have experienced costs, both operations and personnel as well, with respect to supplies and personnel costs that we have experienced due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have inventoried these things in Macon County, and as far as that goes, we're compiling the information, working with the towns to get their information, and it's looking like right now that the amount of money that has been distributed to Macon County will be enough to cover the costs that we have experienced related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our Board of Commissioners took action in...
You need to come up here. Can they hear you?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Okay.
Our Board of Commissioners took action in March and appropriated $150,000 from fund balance so we could have it on hand to be able to immediately start getting things, tests, equipment, things of that nature. And I know that the towns have each appropriated money from their fund balances as well, if I'm not mistaken, to be able to move forward with combating the COVID-19 pandemic. So as this money is received, we'll be looking forward as to measures we can take to continue prevention and continue to be sure that we have the supplies on hand, as well as looking for reimbursement of those things that we had to do initially when the pandemic first started. So again, I can't thank you enough for that funding, and it will be sufficient to cover the need that we have here in Macon County.
And point out a couple things about that. That actually is half the money. So we've got that amount again. It total for all 100 counties, it was $150 million, and we've got $300 million. So we want to get half of it directly out immediately to be able to be used. The rest of it, we're holding. All of us understand that we don't know what things are going to come up down the road. And again, budget shortfalls is one of those things we're looking at. The state has got. We're in pretty good shape. We've got $1.2 billion in piggy bank, basically. Y'all call it undesignated fund balance. State calls it a rainy day fund. I helped co-sponsored that bill when I got there 4 years ago, so we're glad we did. We had $2 billion in it, and we spent $800 million on the hurricanes. So there's still 1.2 there. There's a little over $2 billion in cash on hand, if you would. So that's good. That's obviously money that can be used, or certainly it's there as an operating in the operating fund. So, Derek, we're hoping as we go forward that if we identify more needs with counties or cities that we can fund more money. And just Derek's my witness. I called him. I said, good news. I said, we got $833,000 for Macon County. But the rest of the news is you got to share it with Franklin and Highlands. So I'd had a few questions, you guys with the municipalities, why didn't we give it to the cities? That's a great question. I asked the same question in committee, and the answer I was given by our appropriations guys, if you think about it, there's 552 municipalities in North Carolina, and everybody that lives in a municipality lives in a county. But everybody that lives in the county doesn't live in the municipality. So to try to get that through the municipalities would have been a little bit of a kind of a logistical nightmare, if you would. And then by giving it out to the counties with the instructions, you need to, this is for your county and for your cities. And so we've encouraged the towns to reach out to the counties and vice versa. And I understand that's already happened here. So thank you guys for that. And we'll hopefully have a little more money coming for you. And schools. So let me say this. Chris Baldwin's here. Chris, and in these kind of times, I kind of keep Chris on speed dial. We talk quite a bit, and I don't mind sharing with you when I got put on the COVID task force, and specifically on the education work group, which is a very small group of us. When we meet, there's usually about 11 of us, and then we have some staff. And so I called Chris and Gina Conley, who's Dr. Conley, is superintendent in Cherokee County. And before I ever went in those meetings, And I think everything you suggested is in the legislation, and it was approved and signed by the governor. So Chris was instrumental in helping get some things into that legislation that we needed. So I want to publicly thank you, Chris, for being available to. Yeah. So why don't you give a little update as far as what you know about the opening of schools and that kind of thing?
Well, we know this will be on August 17th. We're developing a summer learning plan right now to try to get students caught up with behind academically as a result of COVID-19. Developing those plans, we're also developing a remote learning plan for the possibility of closures next year, use of technology, but digital resources and non-digital resources to try to keep kids academically engaged in the event that there is school closures next year. Trying to make plans for all possible contingencies, as Carl mentioned, possibility of alternate day schedules or any type of schedule that prevents students from being at school all together at one time, maintain social distancing, and then also look at sanitation. So it's a lot of planning going on right now, a lot of questions unanswered, but certainly appreciate your support and just the fact that you're just a phone call away is certainly beneficial.
One thing that Chris recommended to me that I was able to get in the legislation was flexibility to start school a little bit earlier, and so they did. That was one of the suggestions I made that they put in the legislation, and that came from Chris Baldwin. And the reason for that is we lost a lot of instructional time at the end of the year. All of us would like to feel like that kids got something at the end of the year, but we lost a lot of instructional time because we were caught off guard with this thing. Nobody knew it was coming, and so they had to do the best they could. And I think counties out this way did do a good job. But by being able to start a week early, you kind of get a head start, do a little catch up from last year, and get a head start on next year. So anyway, I think probably looks like we're on track to open the schools as far as in person with a lot of precautions, and that's kind of where we are right now. Was that it, Carl? So what else? Jimmy?
A lot of broad questions, Kevin. I presume a lot of our budget is tied to the state's budget. An example will be the schools and their teachers. I know it's maybe too early for y'all, but y'all plan on any pay increases, or y'all gonna be holding flat? Or,
We hadn't even, yeah, we haven't really gotten into budget talks yet. That's to come. We're trying to wait as long as we can because we don't know what our budget shortfall is going to be. Best we can tell from central staff, we had some discussions this week. Looks like we're probably going to have a budget shortfall of about $4 billion, which out of a $24 billion budget, Derek, that's pretty significant. It's a chunk of change. So again, we've got the savings reserve, we've got the cash on hand, we've got North Carolina is probably in as good a shape as any state, but still we've taken a shot and will be. The other unknown is the public is ultimately going to decide when things open up, because it doesn't matter what the governor says, it doesn't matter what we say, what you say. Everything's open, and I saw 2 polls this week that said if everything was open today, 80% of people said, I'm going to be a little careful. And they're going to be, I'm on the State Travel and Tourism Board, and we met this week virtually, and we did a survey about travel and tourism, and it showed the same thing. About 75% of people said, not so sure about traveling. If they're planning to take a trip, it's shorter. The good thing for us is that people say they're going to travel or going to do it by car, not by airplane. People are scared to death of airplanes, so that's probably a good thing because people don't get here by airplane. They get here driving, and so it looks like our tourism economy in the West may kind of rebound. So that was some good news this week as far as that goes. So
You worked very hard to get like about $4 million in this budget and make it pass.
yes,
And that passed the legislation, passed that the governor declined to sign that budget. Can you update us on that?
yeah. What Carl's talking about is we were able to get some money in the budget for Macon County. It was actually 11.2 million, I believe. And we got 11 for Cherokee County and 10 each for Clay and Graham. So that money is in the budget. It's still there, but it's part of the vetoed budget. So I'm still hoping that as we move forward, if we can pass things around the veto in many budgets that the governor will sign, then we can get there. And so far that had not happened with the capital money. But yeah, that's one I've been pushing pretty hard, because that means a lot to Macon County. So we shall see. I don't know. Derek, what else you got?
Like you said, I think everybody's taken a shocking and the unknown with this
Yeah.
budget approach, so but we do, again, appreciate the assistance from the state, which you know, for Macon County out of it.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to do that. We've got, as I say, we've got the rest of that federal money left, which is over $2 billion, and that's available to do something with. It's just, we're not sure. We're hoping it's going to be kind of released to us where we can use it for a little broader. Right now it's supposed to be used for COVID-related things, which we can tie a lot of stuff to that, and probably utilize a lot of that money that you have now. But moving forward, I'm hoping we'll give you some relief on your budget shortfalls. So.
What are discussions in, like extending the unemployment benefits or extending like child care subsidies for people who are working, the benefits that came during the pandemic? Are they gonna end, they're supposed to end, we talked about extending them out?
Right, so the unemployment, I believe, is capped at 12 weeks. And folks that got into the system and got it started, they're probably on about their 6th week right now, somewhere in that neighborhood. We have discussed extending that, have not done that yet. The Senate Insurance Committee met last week about that and other things. And of course, I chair insurance, and so we'll probably be taking that up. That's a question we're going to have to deal with in the next 2 or 3 weeks about the unemployment. Just to let you know where that was, we had $3.9 billion, almost $4 billion in the unemployment fund, which was really good. Everybody felt really, really good about that. This is staggering to think about it. The 1st of March, we had about 3,000. Now get this in your mind, about 3,000 people filing for weekly unemployment. That's gone from 3,000 to over 1 million. I don't know what percent increase that is, but it's a lot, and it really overwhelmed Commerce, which their office is right across from where my office is, and they had, I think Commerce had about 600 or 700 employees. They doubled that to about 1,400, and they just added last Monday, they added another 350, I think. So they've gone from a department of, say, 600 employees to pushing 2,000. But it's just been like, if you got a highway that's designed to hold 50 cars in a certain interval, and you got 3,000 cars trying to get on the road, that's what this has been like. It's been horrible for people. And we've had, if anybody's listening or you guys know anybody that has had trouble getting their unemployment, if you'll call my office, we've kind of developed a system to help with that. And we have a contact that we send this stuff to, an email every day. And so if you just call my office in Raleigh, 919-733-5859, we'll see if we can help you with it. Derek?
I know you were primarily, or the author of a bill that was geared toward getting broadband.
Yes.
Into Western North Carolina.
Yep.
Into all of our counties here. Do you see this pandemic as maybe giving some more steam to your bill?
Yep.
And other bills like it to help with the broadband situation?
Yeah, so good question. So give you a little background. Josh lives in Marion, McDowell County. He and I wrote the Fiber Act, House Bill 431. We actually wrote that my first year down there, which was 4 years ago. Just being truthful, the cities and counties endorsed it. They gave the bill a letter of endorsement and published it in their magazine and everything else, and so did the County Commissioners Association. But who didn't like it were the big providers, the big guys like AT&T and Spectrum. the reason they didn't like it, because if the counties or cities can run those trunks out, now a small-time operator can come in, or maybe start a new startup company that can hook up, you know, a few hundred people and be profitable. Whereas they can't. AT&T is not coming out here now and doing it themselves. But basically, they don't want anybody else to do it. Is the truth. So it kind of got the bill killed almost 4 years ago. So, but what came of that was the great grants. So we're like, we got to do something for rural internet. So we were able to get $10 million in lieu of getting our bill through. We got a $10 million allocation, $15 million the second year, and now we just got it again for this biennium. So we got another 15 and another 15 million for rural broadband. And as part of this legislation that we passed 2 weeks ago, we were able to put another 50 million in it. So we're getting there. I've requested another 100 million. We walked out of a meeting and one of my buddies looked at me and said, "Did you just ask for $100 million?" And I said, "Yeah, because we need rural broadband out of our way." And I told Chris this. I said this in an education meeting the other day. We're showing a map of connectivity, and it's the map that came out of the census information. So they polled people and checked and see who's got good connectivity and who doesn't. And if you had good, it was kind of white colored. If it was okay, it's kind of pink. And if it's poor, it was red. Well, guess what? There's a big red blob on this end of the state and a big red blob on the coast. So me and my friend Bobby Hanning, that represents Manio, we both kind of made our stump speeches about how that doesn't work. And I had a quote come out of that. I said, when you say remote learning where I live, a lot of the kids, that means somebody drives by and throws a textbook out the window. That's the best we can do. We don't have internet. And a lot of kids are approaching 50% in some areas, Chris. So, but yeah, Derek, that's a very good point. This has brought it to light that we have poor connectivity out here, and everybody's agreeing that something needs to be done. Again, we got another 50 million in the legislation, so be looking for that. And that's for Tier 1 and Tier 2 counties. And I know Macon got some of that before, but it's just not enough. You know, that's why we're trying to. If we could get another 100 million in there, it would go. I'm not sure it would solve it, but it would go a long ways toward getting broadband out this way. And Carl can speak to that better than I can. But you know, you got to get the trunks out there. I got a situation right now. I can almost see the high-speed internet from my house, but I can't get them to run it on out there because it costs so much money. So I know a lot of y'all in the same boat. But moving forward, if we have to start another year with remote learning, I think it's going to be a very, very difficult thing. I think everybody, the state superintendent, state board of education, our education committee in the legislature, everybody thinks we need to start school back in some kind of normal fashion with precautions, and the school people do. I'm pushing hard for that, Chris, and I'm not going to be quiet until we get the internet out here we need, and until we get a commitment that schools are going to start back on a regular schedule. That's just got to happen. Summertown of Franklin, how are you guys? What do you need or need me to find out?
Talk to us a little bit about, I know Josh may have a similar question with Cal bill funding. The town, you know, in the last couple of years, we've really tried to revamp sidewalks and street maintenance. With the gas tax that's tied to it, what's your anticipated shortfall, you think, for municipalities to expect Cal bill?
Good question. So that's one thing that is really down is gasoline, because people haven't been buying gas as much. People haven't been traveling. I don't know the answer to that. I'll find that out. But see, that's some possible things that we're hoping we can use that federal money for, is to make, because it was caused by COVID-19. And even though right now it appears that we couldn't do things like help you fund sidewalks and things like that because it's not directly related to COVID, but I think everybody understands that the budget shortfall is. So yeah, certainly mindful of that. I'll find that out for you. Josh, how about you?
So what is the criteria for spending that $833,000?
Good question. Derek? I'll let Derek address that.
It has to be direct, it has to be COVID, directly COVID related, and that can be expenses that you had to get or plan on getting more of. Testing, your coronavirus family medical leave act and your coronavirus emergency sick leave, you can offset that with this funding, so that's a big help to counties and municipalities alike. And so, again, it has to be directly COVID related as far as I know, and cannot be used as Representative Gordon said, to offset lost revenue.
Derek, for example, could Highlands use it for law enforcement personnel for how they did the checkpoints whenever they initiated that, their state of emergency requirements, and they did the checkpoints for their law enforcement?
Yeah.
That was one of the things Josh and I had actually talked about on the phone yesterday, and I'm looking into that a little bit more, but I think that would qualify as something that is directly COVID related.
Yes.
And what they're asking right now is, you've got to put all of the things that you're requesting reimbursement for into the forms that are provided and submitted back to the state. So, that kind of with that being due June 1st, that gives an opportunity for you to to list out those things and itemize what we're going to be requesting, what you're going to be requesting reimbursement for, and the state either gives it thumbs up or thumbs down, from my understanding.
That is correct. But I asked that question directly about law enforcement and overtime, like you probably had your health department people have probably worked overtime. Those are expenses you can use this money for. For example, I guess the biggest use of that was in Graham County. They literally blocked the roads coming into Graham County with big concrete barriers, and they spray painted "Go Home" on it. And but they manned that 24 hours, 3 roads, I think, into Graham County, Sheriff. I think. So they were manning that 24 hours a day, and they did it with a private, I think they private contractor, and it was thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. So Graham County is planning on drawing their money down mostly for that. So that, like I said, I'd asked that question for them sometime back. But yeah, and I think they're going to be pretty lenient with the way that money is used, because usually you think about money's coming to the county or city, they're writing you a check, and just so everybody's clear, they're not doing that. You have to say, here's what we're going to spend it on, and then they write you a check.
Yeah.
So do that. The money, it's literally, the money's on the table, $833,000 for Macon County, and we need to use it. It's already been funded. It's already sitting there. So, and same with you towns. Get out of the box a little bit and think about how you have been impacted by this. Your staff has been impacted. Your budget's been impacted. Derek and I talked about several things, like the health director, somebody's overtime. They wouldn't have done that if it wasn't been for crisis. Law enforcement, same thing. Summer?
So a question maybe to follow up on that too, and maybe Derek asked you about it. Can municipalities get more than one draw from that? Because if I read it correctly, the funding's here until December 2020, so we have until December 2020 for expenditures.
They are saying while you have to have your plan turned in by June 1st, that doesn't have to be the final plan. That there can be revisions after that. So at this time, I would say yes, you can make changes, but I think that initial, to get the ball rolling, has to be turned in by June 3rd. But after that, we'll be able to make revisions to that plan.
That's correct. Yeah.
Because things might come up during
Exactly.
between now and December 31st, that calls for, which goes back into what you're saying, it's on reimbursement
Right.
basis.
So make sure we utilize that. You guys work closely together. If I can help you with that, but you guys are better at that kind of stuff than I am. You know what your expenses are, and we want to try to help make you whole as much as possible. Lee, you got anything?
Yeah, can you comment on the availability of testing and efforts to expand it?
Yeah, good question. Availability of testing. I have been told that the kits are readily available. Right now, I had it somewhere. Since well, let me read you this paragraph. Since Monday this week, we went from 19,023 to 2,160,618 confirmed cases. That's a 14% increase. All right, keep that figure in mind. We have a 14% increase. During that same time, we completed tests increased from 255 to 303,000. So we tested about 45,000 people, and that is an increase of 19%. So if you do the math there, you've increased your testing by 19%, which common sense tell you you're going to find more positive cases. With positive cases only increased 14%, which is 5% less than the rate of the tests, if that makes sense. So that number, the number of positive testing per test given is coming down, and it's because of that availability. And a lot of those are coming from LabCorp, and they're coming to the health department. So again, if that's not happening like it should, let me know. We'll get somebody on the phone and make sure, because now we're to the point kind of asking everybody that has symptoms or you've been around somebody with symptoms to go ahead and get tested, and the kits are out there. So
It's my understanding that the governor's suggestion maybe is 5% of the population to be tested. That's the sort of goal. Is that correct?
yeah, that's about 500,000 people.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we're at 303,224 now. And we've not been testing as much in the rural counties just because we haven't had, because what they said to begin with was, because there weren't as many kits, is only test people that are symptomatic. And then a lot of those, which is kind of deceptive, but a lot of those, the doctor just tell you got the symptoms, go home and try to get better on your own. If you get worse and you get where you can't breathe, which that's a problem, then come in and we'll test you and go from there. Now it's kind of been changed to, if you're showing symptoms and or been around somebody with it, need to be tested. So.
Is there any talk about, any discussion, I'm sure there's some kind of discussion, but, is there any discussions about the release of information? You know, for example, when we say,
Yep.
that you've been around somebody that's got symptoms.
Right.
The reality of it is, we all may have been around somebody that's got
Yep.
symptoms, but everything seems to be so secretive.
Yep.
Protection of patients and businesses or whatever, and that information doesn't get out. And, you know, if I was a business owner, and it's easy for me to say because I'm not, but if I was a business owner or was a business and had a big corporation, and one of my employees had it, and it was getting around the community, I'd want to come forward and say, yes, we have had an employee that's got it. These are the protections that we have taken to ensure that our customers are safe. And I don't know what word I'm trying to say other than the word disgusted. I get disgusted when you see big organizations not do that.
Right.
And do the right thing by your community who supports you.
Yep.
And I'd like to see that happen, and it doesn't just happen in Macon County, it's gotta happen
Everywhere.
else. Is there any discussions on trying to encourage or get those things done?
Good question. Actually, I had that discussion with two people yesterday. One is in this room and is a reporter.
That's me.
About that. What the law is, you can't release anything that would give away somebody's identity. So it goes back to the way I run an insurance agency. So it's called private health information, PHI. So anything to do with your private health information, that includes your name, your date of birth, any ailments you may have, medications you're on, all that is private health information. You cannot release that. And they're treating this like that, which is not. And I'm going to look into that. I talked to one of my legislative buddies last night, as a matter of fact. And if that's the case, I don't mind running legislation that fixes that. You know, we've done it before. So, and what you're saying is exactly right. If I know there's one particular person in Macon County that was tested that was thought to work at a fairly large retailer here, and the health department can or don't think they can say, but I'd kind of like to know if it's XYZ store And then it's up to me. You know, we all have to take our risk. We take them every day. You choose whether or not to drive a car. You choose whether or not to ski or hang glide, or we choose our level of risk. It probably
But
wouldn't.
It was my understanding, and, I may be wrong, but it was my understanding that, for example, there was, I think it was Lowe's in another county, they come down with it, and immediately we heard from Lowe's, we're taking these precautions.
Yep.
We saw that even here in our county.
That was the Lowe's in Cherokee County.
Correct.
Yeah.
The HIPAA requirements are for medical providers, not in private business, so it's not, so they could do it.
That
Well,
you are correct.
Lowe's
So-
in Cherokee County did it, they elected to do that.
Yeah.
There's similar situation, Macon County, that business elected not to.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm trying to say, is that you immediately saw our Lowe's here in Franklin take immediate action. I know because I was one of those people who was there about every day.
Yeah.
And you had to do different entryways and, they counted you and you could see instantly the changes that they were making. And I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a significant difference in the way things were being handled and done.
Sure.
And it's frustrating when, we're supporting a business here and you're not seeing the same thing being done.
Yeah.
I want to know. I want to know, and just like any other person that's probably sitting here, they've been asked the same question. Do you know if it's an employee at this place? And we can't say nothing.
Right.
I'm not going to say it because I don't know for sure because I don't get told. But people are really concerned. And they're coming to all of our elected officials.
Yeah.
What are you all doing about it?
I had 2 calls yesterday about it. Same thing. And the truth is, if these small towns, if people don't, if they're not told directly, they're going to either get it by hearsay or make it up, unfortunately.
It'll be out within 5 minutes on Facebook.
Yeah, which it was.
So that's totally the company's call, to divulge that?
That's my understanding. And the company, if it's a private company, they can do that because they're not actually releasing private health information. They're just releasing the fact that, hey, we had an employee here that tested positive. When I first heard that, I know all about the Information Act and HIPAA, and I get all that. I work in that world every day. But where somebody works is not really private information, I don't think. I mean, it's public that you work there. People know that you work there. They just don't know.
It can help people identify the person.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be the impediment of every community to know that someone has been identified, and I don't care who it is, it's relevant.
Right.
But to know that someone had been identified, and that person, if Robin's bunch involved to verify that this information is correct, that that person had moved
Mm-hmm.
within these geographic areas, it seems like that would be, there's 2 sides to that. I think it would be beneficial for everyone to know that, take appropriate precautions. The flip side of it is it causes mass concern, and so I understand that part of it, but I don't get how that's invading on my privacy.
Right. So having heard that a couple times yesterday, and I'm hearing it from, just a little straw poll here, how many of you think that ought to be something that's changed? That,
Absolutely. It's frustrating because everybody, all the business want to act like, or say that they care about our community. They want our support, and they care about our community. Well, if you care about our community, then tell me what you're doing to protect my community.
right.
Now that you have it as an employee, and I'm sorry you got it. It's awful, it could be my family member. I don't want you to tell me who it is.
Right.
But tell me what you're doing to protect my wife and children who may be coming in there today.
That's right.
Or do whatever.
Well, I'll promise this. I will look into that this coming week and find out. It could be that we could, just amend the legislation a little bit for that.
I think a business that refuses to do that is selfish.
I agree.
They're also harming themselves in the long run. I've gotten calls from people over the past couple of days who say they won't shop at whatever retailer we're talking about.
Yeah,
So it's ultimately going to be more market.
yep. I agree. It seems to be unanimous here among our community leaders, so
And then as a whole, it makes our local government look bad because the health department is not releasing information that
Right.
they feel they can. So the general public looks at, when one entity of our local government, they include us all, and it looks like we're hiding something from our public.
right.
And,
Yep.
It's just, so it hurts us all. It hurts all of our local government.
I would agree. I'll look into that when I get down there Tuesday. Good.
The last thing I'll say,
Go ahead.
is that, I just want you to know as one of our representatives and one of our local officials, I look forward every day to getting the information that you put out on the state radio every day. As one of our local representatives, I want you to know, I really appreciate that. We
Good.
also share that information on our new app. It's a lot of good information, and you never miss a day. You do Saturdays and Sundays, and you're always available to us. And I've never called you that you've called me back or that I didn't get hold of you. And that's hard for a representative. Probably not you, especially during all this, enough that boys and thank you. So I just want to take the opportunity to
Well, thank you. I appreciate
say
that.
thank you.
Yeah, I told somebody that the phone calls are kind of manageable. I'm only getting about 100 a day
Right.
now. Unbelievable. And probably half of them unemployment questions and then everything in the world. But yeah, I'm available. I give up my cell phone. Other legislators won't. They say I'm crazy for doing that, but I think you'd have access to me. So I was going to try to wrap it up an hour. We're almost there. If there's anything else you want to talk about, I've kind of hit the high spots. Anything you guys need that we haven't discussed today? Just keep trucking. And Chris, on the school front, you guys feel good about opening up?
We do. A lot of plans and financial questions about exactly what it's gonna look like. But
Yeah.
we expect a lot of stuff to have kids in our buildings. You ready for that?
It'll be here before we know it.
Absolutely.
I had a note here too. Several people asked about driving tests, training, and when they may resume. Due to the governor's executive orders on social distancing, it's not possible for people to sit in a car next to each other during a driving test. And that would be true for driver's ed, what this phrase is talking about when you go get your license. So that's been suspended. One of two things would need to occur for this to happen. The governor can amend his executive order to allow driving tests to resume, or the General Assembly would have to pass legislation to authorize it, which the governor then could sign or veto. We're working through our options right now and hope to have a resolution soon. So I had several people ask about that. So hopefully get a lot of kids. Yeah. So we'll work on that too. Trying to see if there's anything else I had written down that I didn't tell you. Well, that's all I've got. Are you guys good? Everybody's got my phone number. So 371-2211. Not hard to remember. Give me a ring if you need anything.